The blizzard roared like a beast unchained, swallowing the Nebraska prairie in a white fury that erased the world beyond the cabin's frost-crusted window. Snow fell in sheets, relentless, piling against the walls until the timbers groaned under the weight. Inside, Clara Hensley sat in a rocking chair, its creak a faint heartbeat against the storm's howl. Her arms cradled two infants, swaddled tight in threadbare blankets, their tiny faces pressed to her chest. Her breath fogged the air, even indoors, and her hands raw, cracked from cold, trembled as she pulled the blanket higher, as if she could will warmth into their fragile bodies. The fire had dwindled to embers, a faint orange glow that mocked her exhaustion. She hadn't the strength to fetch more wood. Not yet. Clara's heart was a heavy thing, thudding with a mix of fear and stubborn resolve. 19 days had passed since her husband, James Ornesor, rode out into the dawn, promising to return with supplies. Maybe a doctor. Before dusk, he'd said, his voice light, his smile too easy. She'd counted those days by the fading light through the window, by the shrinking pile of beans in the pantry, by the diapers she washed and dried stiff over the hearth. Each day, she'd whispered his name, James. James, until it felt less like a prayer and more like a wound she couldn't stop touching. By the 12th day, she'd stopped saying it aloud. The twins, 2 hours a year, had grown quieter. Little Samuel whimpered now, a soft, melting sound, while Grace, the smaller one, barely stirred. Clara's chest tightened every time she looked at her daughter's still face, fear clawing at the edges of her love. A year ago, Clara had been a school teacher in a dusty frontier town, her days filled with the chatter of children and the scratch of chalk on slate. She'd loved the work, the way a child's eyes lit up when they pieced together a word. Then James Hensley rode through, all charm and promises, his laugh loud enough to fill a room. His eyes had seen her, not just her face, but her hopes, her quiet strength. She'd believed in him, in the life he painted. A home of their own, far from the town's judgmental whispers. But love, a sizzle, she learned, it could thin like smoke in the wind. When the twins came, born in a night of blood and grit, James barely looked at them. He'd taken the last horse and left, his promises crumbling like ash. The wind screamed, rattling the window. Clara shifted, her body aching, and placed the sleeping twins in a cradle fashioned from a trunk lined with pine boughs and torn flannel. Samuel stirred, a small fist curling. Grace didn't move. Clara's throat tightened, but she pushed the fear down, pulling on boots with split toes and wrapping burlap around them. Wood weighed sardin on. She needed wood before the cold sank deeper into the cabin's bones. Outside, the snow stung her face, blurring her into a ghost. She pried the axe from the stump, her arms burning as she chopped, her breath sharp clouds in the air. When she stumbled back inside, her cheeks raw and fingers numb, she froze. The cradle was silent. Her heart lurched. She rushed forward, and then Grace shifted, a faint sigh like a reed in the wind. Clara collapsed to her knees, sobbing into her sleeve, the woodpile spilling beside her. She rekindled the fire with trembling hands, pressing the twins close, whispering nonsense songs into their hair. The storm raged on, but inside, Clara clung to the flame, to the stubborn beat of her own heart. She didn't wait for James anymore. She waited for sunrise. The sound came in the dead of night, not the wind, not the babies, but a crunch. Once. Snow compacted under weight. Clara's body went rigid. She rose, pulling the rifle from above the mantel. It was too heavy for her weakened arms, but she steadied it, moving to the window. Frost obscured the view, but she felt it someone was out there. Not coyotes, not this time. Something deliberate, two-legged. She stood guard until the cold bit too deep, then banked the fire higher and dozed with the rifle across her lap. Never fully asleep, morning brought a new terror. Samuel coughed, a faint rasp that twisted Clara's gut. She ground the last oats into a paste, mixing in melted snow. But her strength was fading faster than the food. She gave more to the twins, less to herself. Hope was a dangerous thing, and she'd stopped expecting it. So when the knock came soft, hesitant, she thought it was the wind. Then it came again, rifle in hand. She opened the door a crack. A man stood there, snow dusting his shoulders, his beard frosted, his eyes the color of twilight. Behind him, a mule stood quiet as stone. He didn't speak, just looked at her, not with pity, not with hunger, but with something steady, unnameable. Clara's grip on the rifle tightened, Finally, his voice came, low and rough. Saw smoke. Figured someone might need help. She said nothing. He set a small sack at her feet, oats, dried apples, a clean cloth, then turned, disappearing into the snow. Clara dragged the sack inside, her hands shaking as she opened it. Real food, real warmth. She didn't know what to make of it. But that night, as she rocked the twins by a brighter fire, the snow seemed to fall a little softer. The blizzard didn't end, it shifted, a cold breath rolling over the hills, persistent as regret. Clara stopped counting days by light and began measuring them by warmth. The twins' skin against hers, the faint heat of the hearth, the stranger's sack of food. She wondered if she'd imagined him, if hunger and fear had conjured a man from the frost. But the oats were real. The apples brought color to the twins' cheeks. She learned his name on his third visit. He brought flour, dried berries, a tiny shirt for Samuel. Elias, he said when she asked, his voice like river stones, worn and enduring. Clara, Totemanamon, she replied, and he nodded, as if he'd already known. They didn't speak of why he helped or where he'd been. Their silences held more truth than words. Elias became a rhythm in her life. His visits unpredictable but certain. He fixed the door latch, patched the roof, carried water without being asked. Clara didn't thank him with words. She made weak coffee, mended his coat, tucked a biscuit into his hand. One afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the clouds, she watched him carve at the table, his brow furrowed. You don't talk much, she said. He looked up. Neither do you, she smiled. Small but real, always been like that. Not always, he said. Grief took my words. Took most things. I know how that feels. She whispered. She asked, barely audible. What happened to her? His knife stilled. River swelled. Came fast. My wife, my little girl. I was fixing a fence, Siri. Came back too late. Clara's eyes burned. I'm so sorry. Ain't your sorrow to carry. Seterum. Charasha one, he said. But his voice softened. It matters. What you lost. She stood, crossing to him. This home's not whole, but it's warm. He met her gaze. It is. Their fingers brushed. A small, brave contact. The next morning, she found a tiny wooden cradle on the mantel, smooth and simple, its grain gleaming. She touched it and breathed. Trouble came with a harsh knock one evening. Elias reached the door first, hand near the rifle. A man stood outside, rough beard, bitter eyes, hat dust-coated. You, Clara Hensley, he barked. She stepped beside Elias. I am, and what? Name's Caleb, James's cousin. Come to collect what's his, Clara didn't flinch. James is gone. This is my land now. Caleb laughed. An ugly sound. He said he'd be back. These brats his. They're mine. She said, chin high. You got no claim. Caleb's gaze flicked to Elias. Who's this, new bed warmer? Elias's eyes sharpened. I'm the one who'll bury you if you try to take what ain't yours. Caleb studied him, then spit and left, muttering, I'll be back. With paper and men? That night, Clara sat by the fire, the twins asleep, the wind rising. Elias poured her tea, his hands steady. You don't need to fight this alone, he said. I don't know how not to, she admitted. Then I'll remind you. She believed him. The storm wailed. But inside, it was warm, a place of survival, of beginning. Days grew longer, the snow softening, icicles dripping. Clara noticed the sun's gold, the stubborn patch of earth beneath the eaves. She rose before the twins, fed the fire with grace, prepared breakfast from Elias's trades of hair, flour, hard cheese, source of month. Elias no longer slept by the fire. She'd made a bedroll by the shelves. His presence felt less like a visitor's and more like part of the cabin's pulse. One morning, she caught him humming as he fixed the barn latch. I used to sing, he said, startled, for my girl, who'd put her to sleep. She must have felt safe, Clara said, pressing a button into his palm. From your coat, he held it like it was precious. Their hands lingered. That night, they stood on the porch, the sky pink-streaked, stars piercing the veil. I forgot what color looked like, Clara murmured. Been gray a long while. Elias said, I was a teacher. She said after a pause, loved it, thought I'd always be there, with books and children's voices. What happened? Married James. He had dreams, A place of our own. I wanted to believe in something wild. She glanced at the cabin's glow. Now I believe in what stays. Elias's gaze deepened. And do you believe I'll stay? I believe you've chosen to every day you show up. It tells me so. He stepped closer. Solid. Warm. Clara was he said, her name soft. Sacred. You saved more than the twins. You brought the world back. In pieces. I ain't whole, he added. Won't ask for what you can't give. I'm not whole either, she replied. But I'm learning to feel again. Their foreheads touched. Breath mingling. Something blooming unseen. Trouble returned at noon. A grizzled man with a badge and a sneer rode up. Sent by Caleb. Claiming the land was under dispute. Never lawfully filed, he said. Could be cleared. Clara stood in the doorway, arms crossed. It's not abandoned. I live here with my children. This home was built by my hands. The man eyed Elias. You her husband? No, no, nashurum, Elias said calmly. But I stand with her. The officer spit. Prepare for legal company. Caleb's got money. When he left, Clara pressed her back to the door. I won't lose this place. You won't, Elias said, but strain tightened his face. That evening, she found him pacing by the woodpile. Fists clenched. She touched his arm. What are you thinking? How men use paper to steal what they can't earn. How I lost one family. Won't lose another. Her breath caught. Is that what we are? You are. She didn't pull away. I never thought I'd feel this again. Not love. Not hope. I love you, Elias. Not for saving me, but for seeing me, for staying. He reached for her. Their kiss was slow, reverent, an oath without words. You don't have to be perfect, she said. Just be here. I will be. They went inside. The fire cast shadows. The cradle creaked as Samuel shifted. Elias knelt, touching each child's hand. I never got to watch mine grow, he whispered. Maybe now I can help these two. You already are. They prepared not just for winter, but for Caleb's return. Elias reinforced the door. To check the rifle, Clara organized her papers, proof of James's neglect. They worked with quiet certainty, born of love that endured. The morning broke bright, the sky clear after the storm's fury. Clara stood at the door, breath pluming, heart alert. Today wouldn't pass quietly. Inside, the twins stirred, Samuel murmuring, Grace blinking. Elias was outside, stacking wood, checking the rifle, his calm, cloaking readiness. By noon, the wind picked up, rustling the pines. Clara fed the twins, kissed their foreheads, laid them in the cradle with extra quilts. A quiet prayer curled in her chest. Elias entered, snow on his shoulders. He's coming. 3 men, Sornin, Nisern. One's the lawman, Fornafuris, Jisoin, Tersermanin. Let them come, she said. Steady. They stood at the threshold as the riders appeared, slow shapes against the snow. Caleb led, smirking. The lawman followed, weary-eyed. And a third man, on Hatsuri, in Widiwanawan. Lena one, Sirborn, rifle slung. Clara stepped forward, wearing her mended schoolhouse dress, hair braided tight, posture unyielding. This your answer? Clara with Tutariawani, Sudishi. Caleb called. Throw away Hensley land for a drifter. This is my land, she said, voice cold. To Lear. James left. That's abandonment. This house. These walls, I built them with my pain. My children are inside, born alone. If you think I'll hand it over, you're a fool. Caleb laughed. Ugly. I got papers. This is my uncle's claim. Elias stepped forward. Rifle low. Ready want to watinanin. She's not alone. The lawman dismounted, tugging his gloves. Show me the claim. Caleb handed over a wrinkled page. The lawman read, unimpressed, or 1980 says sparenum. No taxes paid. No clerk's signature. A ghost's claim. Caleb snarled. It's bloodline land. Abandoned. The lawman cut in. A woman surviving with young ones that holds weight. Caleb's eyes cut to Clara. A sheriff's word won't stop me. Elias's voice struck like iron. You won't walk off this land the same. The third man turned his horse and rode off. The lawman followed. Caleb spat, his fight gone, and left. Clara sagged, breathless. Elias steadied her. I didn't think I was scared, she whispered. You were brave. I'm tired of being brave. then rest. Inside, the fire burned. Clara lifted Samuel, pressing her face to his cheek. "Inern, we're staying." That night, Elias cooked, whistling off-key. Clara set the table, adding a dried wildflower. They ate from one plate, knees brushing. Later, Elias hummed to Elsie, her eyes wide. "Yes, you're good with them," Clara said, brushing his jaw. "Learned what not to take for granted. You don't have to carry the past alone." "Neither do you." They stood at the window, the moon lighting the clearing. "I don't know what man I'll be in spring," Elias said. "I just want to be here. You are." Their kiss was slow, certain. "If you," a promise kept. Days felt different. Elias built a pen for a goat, repaired a swing. Clara wrote in her journal the story of their becoming. Neighbors came, a woman trading needles, a preacher asking if she'd teach. She said she'd think about it. The thaw came, snow melting, crocuses pushing through, trees greening. One morning, Clara stepped outside, barefoot. With Elsie, breathing deeply, Elias joined, holding Samuel. The cabin stood strong, transformed a home. They watched the sunrise, love quiet but certain, built not in fanfare but in footsteps, in a hand on her back, in a man who stayed. The warmth between them was theirs, lit from within. Thank you for joining Clara and Elias through their winter's trials and triumphs. May their quiet strength and love linger with you. Until our next story, keep kindness alight.